Oh, my chakra, the amethyst has fallen off my meridian.
Hiya, I'm Dom.
And I'm Misha.
And I have a chronic illness.
Me too.
So welcome to Anything Short of a Coffee Enema.
A podcast on which we'll discuss the things we do or have done to function.
And set each other challenges or tasks every time.
We are prepared to go to any lengths to achieve reasonable health.
Short of a macchiato, up your jacksie. Hello!
Hello!
We are here!
We are here and it's so lovely to be with you all in your ears. Today, I am going to report on a couple of weeks of injecting myself in the thigh with vitamin B12.
Good times. Well, I assume it's good times. I'm going to be discussing, I don't know if it's a review, it's probably just a general discussion, on the torturous thing you sent me, which was asking a couple of questions. Who did I help? Who helped me? And what did I learn every day? That was good times. I'm also going to review a product rather than an app or a book today, and that is an electrolyte.
Ooh, very nice. And what I'm going to do is describe to you an alcohol addiction treatment which I came across a couple of weeks ago, just because I want to hear your reaction to it.
I do like reacting. It's one of my few things that I'm consistently decent at.
Yeah, I know.
Reacting.
And on precisely that topic, I do actually want to get your live reaction to something that my mum brought back for me from Hong Kong.
I don't. Is this podcast material? Or is this private material?
No,
okay,
it's
right.
It's totally.
He's got his hand in a
material.
bag, and this is looking very sus now,
Yeah.
especially with the big fucking grin on his face.
I'm looking forward to this so much. So here's the thing. This is a health and wellness related thing. This is a circulation aid, which is much in use, particularly apparently by people who are rich in years in public in the Hong Kong kind of area. And I just want to get your sense of what purpose you would assume it would be put to.
Oh, it looks like a dog toy / sex toy for slapping. Very pink for a dominatrix toy.
I know, but it doesn't it look so much like something that's used for, I don't know, what's a euphemism, recreational discipline?
I just went straight for slapping, but okay, yeah. I think also it's got some fingers.
Yeah.
I reckon you could probably get a double probe going on with the little nodules on either side as well. Just looking at it, I'm thinking this is a perfect dog toy / sex toy Saturday question.
Indeed.
From one of my favourite blogs, which does a dog toy, which is this dog toy or sex toy Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. This is kind of perfect because it could be either. What I would not say it is a circulation device. Well, actually, no, it probably is a great circulation device, but not in public areas. And certainly probably not for the elderly. I would not have guessed the bright pink elderly raised bump finger
but this
circulation.
Is like you'll often see sort of people doing Tai Chi-ish things in public who kind of slap themselves. Have you ever noticed that? Have you ever noticed like swinging arms in such a way that it makes
swinging, but not like
with their
slapping.
body? Yeah, but apparently it's sort of much of a muchness, and those kind of things are used to, as it were, sort of paddle yourself in order to get the capillaries going.
So has this been brought into the kitchen, and when you're not working hard enough, your wife just gives you a skapoomph on the bottom? Because
it hasn't happened so far.
That's the first thing I would have done with it.
But I live in hope.
Or instead of threatening your child with the wooden spoon, you can threaten him with a three-pronged, bright pink, noduled slapper.
I think even at his age, he'd probably laugh at me.
Is it the pink or is it the three fingers?
I don't know. It's a bit of both.
Can you fold down one finger to I'm flipping you the bird? Sorry. That was incredibly immature. Not that any of that was particularly mature.
The only way you could possibly make it less appropriate, Dom just found.
You could... It looks like something you should be able to slip your hand into and use as a foam glove at some sort of,
Yeah, that's right.
AFL or baseball or whatever match it is that you're at. There you go.
That got more appropriate. Dom, you are someone who has for how long have you been doing vitamin B12 injections on self?
Well, on self only about a year. Before then I'd be trundling off to my nurse and getting them to do it once a month. since before I got diagnosed with other various illnesses. So that was probably 2013.
Yeah.
So 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. So it was once a month initially was yours, is that right? And then...
Oh, no. So what I had to do was a loading dose of
Yeah.
once or twice a week
Yeah.
for 3 months and then drop it back to once a month.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I do now.
Gotcha. Yeah, so what you instructed me to do was try twice a week.
Yep.
So what I did was every 4 days.
Because what I'm doing is different to what you're doing.
Yeah, quite.
There was a lot of stuff coming out of Hollywood going that people before a premiere or whatever would get an injection of this because it made them feel much more awake and zippy and, you know, negated the whole night of coke beforehand or whatever.
Yeah. I didn't personally need to negate that sort of behaviour.
One would hope you didn't, yes.
Indeed. And so you told me in theory that I could just go to a chemist and get the stuff that's necessary. So you get these little ampules of the B12 stuff. You could theoretically in Australia go to a chemist and get the syringes as well. I'm the kind of person who thinks that chemists stick their oar in way too much, even when you're getting like cold and flu tablets. So I was reluctant to have that kind of conversation with them. So what I did was, as well, you know, order online a gigantic quantity of syringes.
You went hardcore bulk, yep.
Yeah. And also just online the ampules of B12. So anyone who's thinking of it, like it works out, it's something like about $3.50 per injection, I think is probably what you're looking at, the way that I bought the syringes anyway. It was about $3 per dose of B12, the place I got it from.
It's only like $15 for a box of 3 over the counter or something. Maybe it's 18 depending on if you're in like Toorak compared to like Wyndham Vale.
Yep.
But it's not super... Look, out of all my supplements, that's the one that does not worry me in terms of cost.
Yeah. So, but as like online buying, I found it was about $3 per ampule of B12.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
And probably about somewhere between 25 and 50 cents per syringe, depending on where you're getting them from. Their syringes are like single use, really simple, come with needle on them and everything else. All you have to do is use, put cap back on, throw out, which is super convenient. So from that point of view,
some people bend the needle before they throw it out. I'm just saying some people do. I cannot be bothered personally.
Yeah.
I don't need to feel like I'm Hulk and just bend a needle. Although now I've said that, maybe I will.
Yeah. You've got that look in your eye, that's for sure.
I'm thinking I might try that out real soon.
Yeah, so then the next stage for me was, as you do with everything these days that you haven't done before, you just go on YouTube and find instructional videos.
What did we do before YouTube?
Oh,
how could I have ever changed my dishwasher over without YouTube before then?
Yeah. Well, I mean, and in my line of work, I would have had no trouble finding someone to tell me much more complicated things about injections than this one.
Not necessarily helpful for what we're talking about now, though.
No, quite. Nothing intravenous required, but that would be walk in a park for those kind of people, an intramuscular injection.
Very easy.
Simple as.
Shove it in, press down, done.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So let me think how to describe the experience. First of all, so you warned me very presciently that there are times when every rational part of you knows this is not going to hurt. This is a very simple thing, but
stabbing your body, just your body kind of goes, hey, let's not do that.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're like, all right, and then you think you're putting it in and your hand has just stopped of its own accord because it's like, I am aware this is not the good thing to do.
Yeah. It's
breaking the skin barrier, which is holds infections out and shit. There's a reason we have that. I'm not going to inhibit it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a remarkable little thing. But I mean, that being said, it's child's play to actually administer the injection. It's not complicated in any way, shape, or form.
I don't think it's painful. Did you think it was painful?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think it was painful.
With one slight footnote, there was one occasion on which I accidentally tensed a muscle after.
And then did you get a nice little of pink liquid coming out, which wasn't blood, but actually the pink?
No, so this is with syringe in.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Still, yeah. And, as I kind of thought to myself afterwards, I mean, minimum 52% of the population could have told me, clenching up after insertion, probably not. not necessarily the greatest idea.
Doesn't always enhance the experience.
No. Yeah. So, anyway, so there was that. But, yeah, so actually administering the injection, simple, had no trouble to do with sort of hygiene around that, cleanliness.
Did your wife kind of go, why did she challenge you to do this?
Oh, look, now at this point,
Or has she just kind of
thinks
gone,
the whole thing is weird. It's
Okay.
like they're just weird, and
Right.
let them do their weird things.
I was worried that she might have thought I was leading you astray, just quietly, gently taking you down a path that you weren't supposed to go down.
No, not at all. Not at all. She just sort of shrugs and
Yeah, fair enough.
that's
After the
what-
ASMR, everything is normal.
That's exactly right. Yeah, at least thank God he's not watching German teenagers anymore before he goes to bed. So I don't know that there's that much else to say. Yeah, really easy to find information about it online, really easy to find dosing information. They're 1-dose ampules that you get. So all of that is remarkably straightforward from that point of view. As far as
Did it give you any feels?
Yeah, lots. And that's
Good.
the major reason why I'm not going to keep on doing it.
Oh!
Yeah.
Okay, that wasn't the answer I expected, I gotta be honest.
No, yeah. So here's the first time I administered the injection, I thought I was just feeling kind of tired and out of it the next day. But gradually, I started to take much more kind of note of the days on which I was giving myself the injection. And what it felt like ultimately to me was a combination of sleep deprivation and you had way too many coffees to try and compensate for it.
So the day after you'd obviously done too much the day that you'd had the injection.
No, I don't think so. I think I found online, within the pernicious anemia online community, there's a really tiny minority who have a side effect of feeling jittery, strung out, and unpleasant,
okay.
which takes apparently up to a year to
get
resolve
over.
itself.
Yeah.
So, again, that feeling isn't, just objectively, I don't think it's especially pleasant, number one. I'm also...
Not really.
I'm inherently now
preference.
suspicious of something that radically alters
How you feel.
my mood.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that felt a little bit kind of on the creepy side, not super pleasant. I also found, just from a point of view
I kind
of...
of wish it had that big an effect on me. It just helps me get through the day. It doesn't really do that much
Well,
more.
what I kind of wonder, I think there's a weird kind of logic, which is if, assuming that feeling is just excess energy,
Yeah.
for me, for you it's bringing you towards a point where...
Almost normal. Yeah.
But for me, without a sort of deficit to begin with, it just cranks everything
Yeah.
way up, way beyond it, where it really should be.
And if you don't need that... I mean... But if you're going to go run a marathon, maybe that's not a bad thing.
Look, and if you just happen to have spent the night before, hoovering up lines of Coke...
Boozing it up or whatever. Yeah, having a massive fucking party.
Yeah.
Then, and you got to rock up at work the next day, which
And
is essentially why it's popular at the moment in Hollywood, then yes.
Yeah. And I can totally understand if you're on a press junket and you're doing 50,000 interviews a day and you've got to be fresh and nice and
they're all
bright-eyed.
exactly the same questions, yeah.
I can totally imagine how you'd use that as a sort of performance enhancer from that point of view. What I found probably, if it was just jittery,
Yeah.
it's totally copable.
Neither here nor there,
I don't really
yeah.
care. And if I felt like I was getting other benefits from it or energy boosts or whatever else, the bit that I found really odd was I found that I don't know how to put it other than I was less emotionally resilient.
Oh, okay.
So I found, for example, I was way more than I normally was.
You had your period, love. Sorry, couldn't resist.
No, well, I mean, maybe not quite that. I think it was maybe not quite that. As
if you've ever experienced that ever.
Yeah, he strokes his beard and thinks about it. Was it like having my period? Let's give this some consideration. What I mean is I'm in the area of drug and alcohol where I work. I don't have the kind of job where I'm interacting with clients at their most vulnerable.
Yeah, okay.
But there's still a certain amount of emotional resilience that's required. You can't be feeling weepy and slightly paranoid about. It's a slight exaggeration, but I was feeling like second guessing other people's behaviour and things they were saying, and just faint feelings of like, man, there's something a little bit off about that, and I'm not really sure why that person said that.
Like taking things a little bit more personally that had nothing to do with you?
I think I was. Yeah, okay, absolutely. So
I think you were on your period.
Yeah, so there was that feeling which was a little bit unpleasant. And
chocolate
then
negates that feeling. It's well known.
Yeah.
Sorry.
For in case of dementor attack, and also
Yes.
in the event of either excessive vitamin B or
B12.
or
Let's be specific.
Yes, let's please.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I just felt that it ultimately wasn't for me. I honestly wasn't expecting that. I seem to fall into like a really, really tiny minority of people who interact with B12 and get that.
I've got to say I've never
Side
heard
effect.
that, but
Yeah.
I'm not saying you didn't feel that. I'm just saying I've never heard that.
No, quite.
Yeah.
And just it seemed to me that if it was going to be, I'll keep on doing this for a year and see if after that point.
So were you taking it like twice a week, or did you
Every
just
4 days.
Okay. Yeah, that's a nice
Yeah.
amount of time. Did you notice that your pee went any funny colours?
No.
Okay.
But
Which means that you're probably using all that B12 rather than just excreting it. Because a lot of people, if they're not going to use, their body's not going to use it, instead of putting it towards things like being slightly oversensitive, it goes reject and just sends it straight to the kidneys.
Yeah. Well, but apparently not. And I mean, another thing there that might be a factor is like I drink, like I have heaps of liquid on a daily basis, so not necessarily something that's going to show up. I tend to be peeing clear.
Fairly clear anyway,
day. So, not so sure about that.
I love it how that's not too much information on this podcast. Sorry, continue.
No, I mean, it's the whole point of this podcast.
Yeah.
We still haven't got to deep dives, if that's the phrase, on your bowel movements yet.
Ooh, I wouldn't have used that phrase in my bowel movements, but that's fine. We'll do that another time.
So where does the wrap up go here? So not for me, I guess, but what I would say to anyone who's...
But you see why it might have a place
within
the greater wellness world.
For sure.
Ooh, I like a bit of alliteration there.
Yep. And let's assume that our cobbled together theory of it brings your energy levels up to a kind of average person's level, but mine being presumably of approximately an average person's level, get fired up somewhere.
Do you think your body had that reaction in part because you've got a history of using depressives? Alcohol is a depressive. And you've always been fond of a decent coffee, haven't you?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you have.
Yeah.
So maybe it just kind of goes, I'm used to that, and that's not what this is. It's the opposite. So I'm just going to react how I react with a bit too much coffee.
Maybe.
Like your body's default was like, I don't know what to do. I'm going to put it in that classification or pile, because that's of course what bodies do. I'm not sure that is what bodies do at all. I'm just shaking my head at myself going, you're crazy.
But it sounds plausible. I would say anyone who's considering it, it's relatively cheap.
Yep. If the self-injecting worries you, and there is nothing weak about it worrying you, as I said, I didn't start self-injecting till this year, and that was only after 2 doctors were like, you can just do it yourself, basically, you pansy, suck it up, princess. You can go to any nurse and they can do it for you. And usually they don't... my nurses and at different clinics have not charged me. They've just charged me for the ampule if I didn't have it myself. Had it myself, they didn't charge me at all.
Yeah.
It takes like half a second.
Yeah.
And they can put it into your arm, which probably... I don't know. Maybe some people would like better.
More familiar in terms of you've probably had more injections in that site than you have.
It's probably less of a stressful or new thing to... Yeah.
No need to kind of show some leg in front of a stranger.
I mean, I go through phases where instead of getting B12, I get actual B injections twice a week or 3 times a week for a period of six weeks, every kind of 8 or 10 months, and they have to be in the butt. So if it's not in the butt, it's easy. Even if it's in the butt, it's pretty easy.
Yeah. It's I'll end the recording when I want to end the recording. I just guess I wanted to wrap up and say that if you have serious concerns about the self-injection thing, like an awful lot of things to do with health and wellness, I think there's a kind of probably an over-reliance on professionals in that area, or more of one than actually, strictly speaking, needs to be the case.
Yeah, it's not a hard thing to do yourself.
No.
It's more that having to see you push something inside of your body.
Yeah, which is
that can be confronting for some people, especially if they've not had to do that. It's so a lot of people still can't look at blood being taken from them and stuff like that. So if you're one of those people, if you find that confronting, this might be for you, just not you doing it to yourself. Yeah.
Fair call.
I interact with this guy almost every day, and it's one of my favourite guys of all the guys. And it is an electrolyte, a rapid electrolyte replacement powder called Aqua Force. Da, da, da.
In a natural citrus flavour.
Yes, that's the flavour I have at the moment. And it's an Australian company. I think it's actually Melbourne. And so this 1 kilo tub that I'm holding, right? 1 kilo of electrolytes. God damn, that's good. Costs me $41 including delivery. It's free delivery.
Yep.
And that lasts me for about 6 months, or a bit less.
Yep.
So because I'm...
Having how often?
Oh, I don't have it every day when I have it. I have about 250 ml, so a cup, on like recovery days.
Yep.
With my first cup of tea in the morning, and then I will have 500 ml on a work day towards the end of the day, because I'm somebody who has orthostatic intolerance. It's pretty common in chronic illnessy circles. So what that means is standing up is hard, basically. Do I need to go into any more detail than that?
No,
Probably
no.
not.
It's pretty comprehensive.
So I need to have a very high blood volume, but also because of that, so that electrolytes are good because you're getting lots of water. But I also need to have more magnesium because I'm more prone to muscle cramps and stuff because of it.
Yep.
I also need to have more salt because I want to increase my blood pressure because my blood pressure is quite low. You know, when you've got a middle-aged man who's eaten steak every day of his life and has a heart attack, they go, okay, well, you need to lower your blood pressure as well as obviously changing your diet and doing some exercise and all the other things. So lower your salt.
No offence to anyone who's on a ketogenic diet, by the way.
I did not say that at all. But what they say is lower your salt.
Yeah.
Because that raises your blood pressure. I need my blood pressure raised.
Yeah.
Not just in an emotional level sometimes that happens, but I need it raised on a physical level.
Yeah.
So I was going to the pharmacy and getting my poxy little effervescent tablets, my Hydrolite for, what is it? $8.
Obscene amounts of
$8 to $14 depending on where you are for, 7 tablets or whatever.
Yeah.
Obscene amounts of money. And this was recommended to me by someone who has pernicious anemia.
Yep.
And she wasn't using it because she has pernicious anemia. We were just chatting about stuff like that because she has pernicious anemia. And she was like, oh, I just get my electrolytes from there because they're really cheap. I'm like, oh, hello. And I looked into it, and it's Australian. It's really designed for people that are like active, not people who are ill.
Yeah.
But I think it's mostly used by people in the chronic illness circle, to be honest. Their delivery can be a couple of days slow, but not anything terrible within Australia Post circles.
Yeah.
They do use Australia Post. And you
Given
get a
that
couple of different flavours.
Yeah.
And then one of them is fructose free. The other two have very, very low amounts of fructose in it. They've got a decent amount of potassium, calcium, magnesium, all those sort of things that I need, as well as salts and whatnot. So, yeah, and they don't taste like shit. And I think that's super important. When you're having to drink 500 ml at a time, that helps.
And can be pretty rare in the area of like electrolyte drinks.
Yeah.
Is it like, what's its carbohydrates per serving?
Oh, I'm sure it's exorbitant. I never actually look at that. It has a scoop in there. Look at that.
It does have a scoop in there. It's not a very large scoop. So what's that? Is that
so one of those,
250 ml?
one of those is 250 ml.
Yeah.
One scoop that comes with it is 250 ml.
Tablespoon.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
But I put 2 in there for my 500 ml bottle to take to work.
Yeah. So how many carbs per serve? This is the deadly question.
So their serving is 250 ml. Energy is 20 calories.
Wow. So not that many carbs per serve.
Well, I mean, you can reread it if you want. I just looked at the energy.
Yeah, but that's like totally nothing. Wow.
It does have glucose in there. The main sugar in there is
so
glucose, not sucrose or fructose.
So
it does have a bit of fructose. It is at the very bottom.
It's like 12 grams per serving. Yeah, which is virtually nothing.
I didn't really look into it. What I was more interested in was that the magnesium level was pretty decent, to be honest.
Yep.
Because what I was doing with the effervescent tablets of like Hydrolite or whatever was I was actually putting in, I've got a magnesium powder that I take every day. I was actually putting in some of that with it to buffer it, to give it a bit more magnesium because that's what I was needing.
Yeah.
And sometimes I would even add a tiny bit of Murray River pink salt because I'm bougie as fuck, obviously, and that's the salt that I have.
Yep.
I'd add a tiny bit of that into there as well. And with this, I don't need to. It's really good. It's really cheap. I would like to be personally sponsored by Aquaforce, please.
It's a pretty great name.
I've actually now bought probably 3 or 4 tubs. And
so it's time, guys.
They last me about 6 months.
Repeat customer.
They send it in cardboard boxes. This is recyclable.
Dom is going to cost you like $80 in products per year. Like, come on board.
You can get it in little tablets or whatever. But the 1 kilo tubs where it's at. Come on, guys.
Yeah. So to put that into context, like,
I also recommend it to other CFS and chronic ill people all the time because it's really cost effective, but it's actually just a really good product.
Yeah. And anyone, like, water in and of itself and your diet is incredibly unlikely to be giving you the exact hydration things that you need, A, and B, your mineral needs on a daily basis are almost certainly not being met. So for anyone, just generally
especially
speaking,
if you're a bit off kilter.
Yeah, it's worth looking into. That's like, to put a couple of things into context, the electrolyte kind of mixture that Fee and I use is something like 20 grams of carbohydrates per scoop, which once again is for 250 mils. So that's like 8 grams more of what's essentially sugar.
But they'll probably be using sucrose rather than glucose. Glucose is slightly more expensive to put in.
This is what I mean. So,
but it goes in your bloodstream quicker as well.
Yeah. So props to Aquaforce.
Yeah.
Once again. Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, I know. I didn't really prepare a speech about why it's really good. I just wanted to talk about the fact that I really freaking like it. A lot of other people now within my little kind of closed Facebook groups that have the same sort of illness that I have, when somebody's having a really crappy day, one of our first answers is always, it's not going to change how you feel immediately, but it's going to change how you feel within the next couple of hours, is get 500 ml of Aquaforce into you. Yeah. Because seriously, that is going to help.
Yeah.
And it does.
Yeah,
it helps because...
hugely underrated.
It helps prevent, certainly with me, dizziness a lot of the time is really one of the things that helps. Muscle cramping, yes, but dizziness definitely.
Yep.
And other electrolytes weren't helping anywhere near as much as that does.
Yeah.
It's just good.
Yeah. And also, like, I noticed when I started actually paying attention to hydration, of which I consider this, broadly speaking, to be kind of a part. When I started paying attention to that, I noticed better sleep.
Yep. Well, theoretically for you, not for me as much. But yes, I can understand that would happen.
Yeah. It's a definite possibility. Less cramping is one way of putting it. Has an impact on flexibility, has an impact on tissue health, soft tissue health more particularly. Has implications in terms of joint health as well, apparently. Really good hydration.
There is some theory, and it's not, I don't think it's proven. The reason is because it prevents collagen, because collagen not just, keeps your wrinkles from going wrinkly, but also it helps keep your joints together, I guess is the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
Collagen is really important in holding, elasticity, holding your joints together and stuff. And really good, proper, constant hydration helps collagen from deteriorating over time. That's what a current thought within the sciencey world is.
Extremely plausible to me.
Yeah.
So you can, another way of approaching this kind of area, is to just do, like Dom mentioned, putting salt in liquid.
You're not going to get the same mineral components.
No, not even close.
And you are going to get the shits. Have you ever had a colonic?
Hasn't been my experience. No.
Okay.
Dom, the title of this show...
No, that's different. Colonoscopy or something prep is basically they can give you a tablet to make you poop a lot, to clean you out, or they basically just give you salt water to drink repeately over the, that's a few hours, because it really makes you...
really not going to work on me, because it's like, I've been avoiding
It's like drinking the Red Sea sometimes. But yes, okay.
I know, but I've been avoiding our electrolyte stuff simply because of the sugar content.
Okay.
So what I do instead is I just put like Celtic sea salt in water. Like all the water I drink has Celtic sea salt in it. And my sister, for example, can't drink the water that I drink. My wife can't drink the water that I drink. All right. I'm at the point now where...
You built up an immunity to it. It's not going to work. The salts aren't going to give you the same range of mineral components that you need and want.
Well, range actually is not bad when you have a look at your Celtic sea salts, Himalayan pink salts. Basically,
Murray River pink salt, exactly.
Quick, cheap, the more colourful it is.
But you're not going to get as much magnesium for your buck or whatever, that sort of stuff.
Not even close. But incredibly...
Calcium is going to be pretty low in that.
Yes. But incredibly useful, like zinc. Enough zinc for you to keep you going.
I'd take that into other tablets. I probably don't need that, but Yeah.
This petered off into...
I was just
Not
now
very
thinking
much.
about
What
all
a
the tablets.
rousing, what a rousing.
Sorry.
And
I didn't
no,
bring enough to
I-
the table today.
I totally contributed to that as well. So Aquaforce,
But I think
hit
what
us
I'm
up.
trying to say-
2 tubs a year is all Dom's fucking asking for. Come on, people.
So what I do when I go to work, I'm the bottle lady. Instead of the bag lady, I'm the bottle lady. I've got a 500ml bottle of electrolytes, pre-made, ready to go.
Yeah.
I've got a 750ml bottle, usually of, say, I don't know, however much, a couple of like 60ml, no, less than that, 25ml, 30ml of cordial, and then a lot of water, and that's just a little bit of sweetness to start me going, because I have a problem when I get there remembering, what my name is, basically, getting started. And then I'll also usually have a Diet Coke or some form of caffeine to kind of drip feed throughout the day. And I will go through the 750ml of light cordial. I will then usually have 750ml of filtered water after that. And then I will come in and have the Aquaforce. Because by then, I've also lost so much of my salt and magnesium that I had at the start of the day that I just need to replace it, or I get dizzy AF. And
So at this
the
stage,
Aquaforce does it at a much quicker rate, and it's tasty. Am I having it for just a nice drink on a cold day, or sorry, on a hot day, a nice cold drink on a hot day or whatever? In between, probably not, but it's pretty decent taste-wise. I've had a couple of different flavours, And the fructose level is very minimal at the bottom. It doesn't bother me. They do have a fructose-free one, which I think is the tropical.
Honestly, I have to say, looking at the macronutrient breakdown, it's really impressive, this stuff. It legitimately is. It's not easy to make a product like that without it being basically sugar plus plus
a bit of
mineral
salt.
supplements. So again, we've said
The only
such
thing
nice
I will
things
say,
about you assholes, so
the
you
negative, is that towards the end of the 1 kilo tub, the little silica absorbency pads are pretty full, and it can get a little bit clumpy at the bottom. But as you dissolve, it still dissolves in the water anyway, so it doesn't really make a difference. But that's the only slight negative. And that's pretty minimal.
By the way, for those playing along at home, if I've got my calculations correct, that's your kind of daily work day liquid intake is like 2.5 litres. Is that about right? 2 times 750ml?
That's at work.
Yeah.
That's not including pre-work, and that's not including post-work. Yes. That's in order to get through work. If I don't do that, then my recovery the next day, I won't be able to eat dinner because I won't be able to stand up long enough to heat it up. I just mentioned that because that sort of ridiculous bullshit about 2 litres per day as a blanket kind of, that's what's going to keep you healthy, is one of the dumbest. It's also so variable to your your person as to what you need.
Absolutely.
My mum doesn't drink water. She drinks coffee and counts that as water. That's not water.
No.
But her body has kind of gotten used to it, and it just kind of copes. I mean, she doesn't really do... There's a lot of other caveats and addendums on that, but...
And Dom's going to call me later on or message me later on and say,
No, that you can leave it. But, we're all different. If I don't have at least 1.75 on a rest day, not even recovery, on a rest day, if I don't have 1.75 litres of water or the hydrating liquid, I will say, then at the very least I'm getting a pretty decent headache at the end.
My
if not very dizzy.
My simple recommendation to people where I started was, my complete game changer was hearing 30ml per kilo of body weight per day. Plus, if you're not interested in the electrolyte area, I would definitely say tiny little pinch of a good quality sea salt in every bottle of water you drink, but keep it around about that. And
if you think of what the liquids you're putting in, it's not about staying hydrated as much as it is about keeping blood volume level, because as you go through the day, that fluctuates. And that is a surprise to a lot of people I know, which confuses me a little. But
you'll feel better. And if you're feeling okay to start with,
it'll also probably, if you get the occasional breakout, it might actually help. It's not going to clear it up. You obviously need to exfoliate and do other stuff, but it's not going to hurt your skin in any way, shape or form either. I can't say Aquaforce necessarily helps clear up your skin. I'm not going to draw that bow, but drinking lots of liquids is good for you.
That's right. But we will say that Aquaforce, if a sponsorship comes through, there are all sorts of foul lies and exaggerations that we're prepared to go to. If only you will send Dom 2 tubs per year. That's all we're asking.
challenged me, Misha, for doing this help journaling thing. Is that what we're calling it? What, did it have a name?
No, not so much. So there's a kind of very wanky thing that some psychologists...
I love wanky things.
And many people in recovery circles will get you to do, which is a gratitude list.
Oh.
The idea behind that being you write down things, as the name suggests, for which you are grateful. This particular construction, this version of it, though, I heard from a, weirdly enough, like a strength and conditioning coach and guru called Charles Poliquin, who's a French-Canadian gentleman who is just about the most intellectual version of a personal fitness guru you could possibly imagine. But anyway, so he recommends, rather than scrabbling around trying to find a long list of things that you're grateful for, he says you can break it down into 3 questions. One is, who helped me today? Second is, who did I help today? And third is, what did I learn? And the theory behind this is that you can use it not only as a way of figuring out, you know, what happened to you that was good today and what was something good that you did, but also it'll let you know if there are areas in your life that you can be improving in those ways, suggesting ways in which you might feel better. And
you also said it can be because you wrote down the stuff for me, which is very kind of you. You also said it could be diagnostic in the sense that it offers ideas for change or areas where you can develop and change and that sort of thing. So I did that. I didn't do it every night because by the time it gets to, let's be real, about 5 o'clock, I'm on the downhill. What is the most appropriate time to go to bed? I know there's no one else that lives in my apartment, but can I legitimately go to bed at 7? Do I have to wait till I'm 8:30? I remember being a child and kind of going, 8:30 is too early to go to bed. So now I try and make myself stay up till 8:30, or if it's summer, until the sun sets. So it doesn't happen at night time, but it happened in my morning with my first cup of tea of the day. I'd sit down and I'd write from the day before. And I also, because of illness and whatnot, I broke it down into, so I'd have the name of the day, so Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and in brackets next to it, I'd have work, recovery, rest, and then once every now and again, play or whatever.
I like that.
Or anything massive that I had on that day, like market or a massage, because I figured that could probably affect it as well. Or any body work sort of thing.
Look at you being scientific with all your confounding variables.
I know, I'm so clever.
I like it.
I deserve a pat on the back. Basically, what that showed me was that on recovery days, I actually aim to live small.
Yeah.
And I knew I was trying to, recover. That seems obvious. But I didn't realise how much I was trying to live small. So, and by living small, I mean, I often won't take any phone calls.
Yeah.
I might get text messages. I may not respond to them at all. Or sometimes I may not even look at them.
To this, yeah.
And then, sorry. And then...
No need for an apology. It's better than running into you in the supermarket.
and me completely blanking you. Yeah, awkward. And it also means that sometimes I may not do social media or I may not read. And I love reading. I've always been a huge reader. But because I'm trying to live small and that takes energy, I don't read those days generally. That sort of stuff. And what that showed me, my main lesson that I got out of it was actually social media. I've only recently joined Instagram. I've always been a slightly snooty person that goes, I don't like images. I like living the moment, not looking at the images of it afterwards or whatever. I know I'm a wanker. I hate myself as well. And I have some closed groups on Facebook that I utilise and enjoy, but I don't generally put lots of shit on Facebook. Yeah. It also showed me that I wasn't reading articles really on days that I was recovering. Rest days I would, or work days I would, but not really recovery days.
So sorry to interrupt, but I gather the articles thing would be more difficult on rest days to say, what did I learn? What did I learn? Is that the...
Yeah, but it's also who helped me, because that is... that's kind of where I'm getting with social media is the same sort of thing, is who helped me, like who did I engage with today? How did I actually live my life today? You know, did I speak to somebody? Did I not speak to somebody? Did I help somebody? Did I not actually help somebody but just provided an outlet for somebody? Or did I actually learn anything about my environment? Did I, contribute to the community around me, anything? And you can do that in an online or a physical space. I think you can do it in both. And reading articles or sharing articles or discussing articles and stuff like that can all be part of that, in my opinion. yeah, social media is really important for staying connected, because there were days when I would not talk to when I say an actual person, I mean somebody I know in my real life.
Yes, I know what you mean. Yeah.
But I might have one or two exchanges, and not many, but one or two exchanges with somebody that I just know in the online world, and that was really important for helping me feel connected, or helping me feel at least not super isolated.
Yep.
And I'm not somebody who, I don't mind being isolated to a certain degree. I kind of like my own space. I'm quite independent. That doesn't really worry me. But it did make me start thinking about other people. I know how important social media is for people with chronic illness, because it can just be a lifeline to people outside of your room, basically. And how damaging social media can also be to anyone's mental health, because it's not reality, it's a perceived version of reality.
Yeah.
And where that line is when you've got a chronic illness is really hard to negotiate. And I hadn't really sat down and thought about that too much, and that's really what I guess doing this showed me. Also, on a basic level, as I've whinged to you and everybody that I think I've met in the last fortnight or whatever, I'm not great at letting people help me. And I found that question really hard.
Yeah. They can often be tricky. There's always, I mean, my experience...
I got really esoteric.
My experience talking to other people who've done this is there's always one element of it that they find super tricky.
Yeah.
There's always something, which is a sign, I think, that it's that combination of 3 questions is quite a good sort of catch-all for... Yeah, which is not to say, and again, like, I think it's worth stressing...
I already knew that about myself. It just really rammed it home when I had to answer that question every day, to be honest.
Rammed it home over and over.
Over and over. And I did actually send you a message a couple of days in going, what the fuck? That was so evil and twisted. Why would you do that? And he's like, I didn't really consider that.
No.
And I was like, and he's like, you can get esoteric on it. And I was like, oh, I already have. I've already had to, my friend.
Yeah. And that is worth stressing. Like, when it says, who did I help today? That doesn't mean you have to have, like...
carried some groceries for an old lady or something. Yeah. I took it as, how did I engage with other people?
Exactly. That's precisely right. And if you, like, the simple fact is, if your job involves other people, you helped someone while you were at your job. There's no question.
It was easy to answer on work days, I've got to be honest.
Yeah.
Especially because my job is providing expertise to people who don't know how to fix a problem they've got with animals. So, with their pets or whatever. So, that is, my job is literally helping people. That's fine.
Yeah.
But for who helped me at work, it was still fine because I work with other people. So they do this and I do that, and in the end of the day, we all get all the shit done. But on days when I didn't leave the house, on days that I barely made it to the kitchen, that it was really hard.
No, I completely grant you that. Yeah, absolutely. It is a good, like, I think, again, as I said, what attracted me to it the first time I heard about it was just, oh, thank God, this gets me out of the fucking gratitude list area. Because that does, like, I think 2 things. 1, that gets really, really dull. 2, it can be very easy to feel like not only are you a failure, but you're a piece of shit if you're struggling with a gratitude
I think
list.
it could also make you feel like you owe people all the time. Whereas I don't know if you do. Like, a lot of people, I know I help other people because it's a way of showing that I care about them, not because I want their gratitude. In fact, if they give me gratitude, it makes me feel incredibly awkward, and please don't ever do that. Just, I want to show that I actually give a damn. So that's how you do it, by helping someone. Don't thank me. Don't. It just, it can make you feel like you're constantly owing people.
Or help, Dom.
Yeah. If we cannot reiterate that again, let's just do it. I got issues, I know.
So, because presumably there were maybe like a couple of times when it was relatively easy. Like, things spring to mind. Did you notice a difference in terms of your sense of perhaps mental health well-being having reflected on it a little bit?
No. I'm fairly robust mentally. In that... You know, in my life I've experienced downtimes, like any human, but as long as I'm doing certain things in my life, I tend to mentally be okay. And I know about those things because I've had some downtimes or whatever. But also, I have a probably inflated sense of ego for who I am as an actual person. So I think that tends to get in the way of anything, either like detracting from my self-esteem and therefore my mental health a little bit. Basically, I'm trying to say I'm really arrogant.
That's one construction to put on. The other one, I like the robust one from earlier on. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. I
No.
kind of, like, on my good days, I feel quite like that as well. Like, it's hard to get me off my equilibrium when I'm feeling okay about how things are going. And what it sounded to me like, that was a description of someone who's, relatively speaking, in that state quite a bit, which is a good thing.
Yes. I mean, I'm trying to think of a way to say this that makes sense. I guess on the days that the reason that it doesn't necessarily help my mood or help my mental health is because it's not that wasn't necessarily on the good days bringing anything diagnostic. Where it brought the diagnostic stuff was on the bad days, because it just brought home how much I was aiming to not have contact with people. I'm an extrovert, so that can be a little bit confronting sometimes. Yeah. So it still didn't necessarily say bad things to me in terms of my mental health. It just, really brought home how much I'm doing that.
Yeah. I'd really like to go back and linger a little bit on that social media stuff. What's your sense?
It was really interesting, I thought.
If you had a kind of basic prescription for people in terms of trying to balance, you need this because you might have sort of a limited ability to connect with other people in a face-to-face way, but you've also got to be perhaps aware of some of the pitfalls. What was your sense of?
I think it has a lot to do with, so when it comes to like Facebook, I'm not on, I curate my feed heavily. That is, it's just something I've always done, but it's also something I do because I don't have the energy to read shit I'm not interested in. I defriend people with startling regularity, actually. And I am in closed Facebook groups, and basically that's all I'm on Facebook for, is those closed Facebook groups. And so there might be 4 posts or 40 posts in one of those groups a day, and I just pick and choose which ones I'm able to cope with that day. So if I'm not feeling great, well, I'm just going to look at the people that are probably on the same level of energy or wherever it is that I am in my journey that day. So I won't read the other posts, I won't engage, I won't like, I won't comment, I won't do any of that. I won't even read it. I might read the first 3 words and go, nope, that's not for me today, sort of thing. And Instagram, I'm still finding my feet on that because that's new to me. Basically, I've just curated it so it's kittens and ponies. Let's be real here, people. That's not saying anything bad. Although, because I'm not riding at the moment, there is a little bit of envy on that. So I've tried to not go too heavy on all those super pretty dressage horses, which is where my love of horses is. And I've put more show jumping in because I'm not a show jumper. I have no desire to do that. YouTube, I curate it so that I'm watching throughout the day stuff that's not important. So like makeup stuff or whatever. Stuff that I'm not going to buy the makeup. I don't wear makeup that way. But it's at least I can feel like I'm chatting to somebody about something.
Yeah. And there is maybe now in our sort of international political climate more than at a lot of times before, people try, I think, to push the idea that there's something wrong with your social media feed if it doesn't contain...
If it doesn't challenge you.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And that's... I totally see where people are coming from. There is... We do seem to have pretty good evidence to suggest that people get into bubbles online which self-reinforce some pretty toxic thinking, for sure.
Look, I'm not going on Reddit on days that I'm not feeling mentally robust.
No, quite.
Let's put it out there.
But also, like, I think your suggestion for someone who has a limited capacity to engage physically with the world,
with reality,
you're going to need connection to other human beings,
because otherwise you are in a box on your own. And you need, you're a human, you're a social creature, you actually need other people. And even if you're living with other people, that doesn't mean you don't need general connection with the outside world, because that's how we find meaning in lives.
And given that you have to have those connections, don't put pressure on yourself to have a smorgasbord of different opinions coming at you. Make it a safe spot for you. Just
as long as you're aware that you're curating it, I don't think there's a problem with it. When you're not aware you're curating your feeds, then I think that could be a problem, because you need to sit there and think about, why are all my things the same, sort of thing. Because you have to understand there are algorithms, and you have chosen at some point to jump down into those algorithms. I would also say that if you've got a chronic illness, forums are probably the best, because you can just do however much you want to do. There's nothing there that you don't want to see, and there's no visual, oh fuck, I did not want to see that today. Like, because I've been involved in animal rescue in the past, some of my Facebook people or groups or whatever, and I will rescue ones, and they're all ones that I tend to have hidden because I don't want to see that every day.
No.
Yeah.
No, I quite understand. Yeah, and I mean, again...
It's a gnarly question because I think it really depends on who you are. I think if you're an introvert also, you're probably more likely to want to use social media more than is healthy for you. Whereas because I'm an extrovert, I prefer actual human contact, or even just going outside and sitting out in the park and creepily watching people do their own life things around me. But if you're an introvert, because it doesn't take as much energy from you, I imagine it's very seducing.
Yeah, I would think so.
Just so, keep in mind who you are.
Yeah.
But it's tricky because we need social media to feel connected, but we also need to remember that it's not reality.
Quite. And it's also, I think beyond just feeling connected, I think it has utility in so many different areas of your life now. Yep. Like, it's difficult to keep up with people's major events in life if you're not on Facebook, and it can be difficult to stay connected to when's my high school reunion or when there are a million other little things like that. Dom just made an extremely unpleasant face.
I'm not a high school reunion kind of person.
I went to my 10-year one and I was remarkably surprised by how much fun I had.
I would have been remarkably surprised if I'd gone to my 10-year one. I did actually bring this up as a topic within one of my Facebook groups because I had realised that it was... Because there were days when I wrote, who helped me? Instagram. Like, Instagram helped me. And I was like, whoa, the world hates social media right now. And it's destroying, teenagers' mental health. And God, I understand why.
Yeah.
But if that's what's helping me, then you need to deep dive into why that is. And so I was discussing it with a couple of other people in the same sort of energy levels that I'm at, with the same sort of illness and stuff like that. These people all live with other people. They've all got families. But the people that I was discussing it with that day. And they were all saying that they have to be really careful because in getting FOMO, because they see people their age, going on long holidays and doing all this sort of stuff, ticking things off bucket lists, and they don't have a bucket list because they can't, or whatever it is. So it is something that you got to really be aware of. And I think that is really individual as to what is most important. I don't really get FOMO. It's not something that happens to me except horsey stuff, basically.
And sorry, just in case, that's FOMO stands for fear of missing out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that was obvious, but okay.
Yeah. And it is like, that's if you had to boil down, particularly for Instagram, if you had to boil down...
These people were even saying with Facebook people, so people that they went to school with, or their best friend from 10 years ago is spending 6 months in Italy or whatever, and it's like, God, I would kill to do that, but I can't even get the energy to put the dishwasher on, sort of thing today. Yeah. And I think that's where those kind of curated groups can really help, because you're not just seeing the best of somebody else's life, you're also seeing sometimes the worst.
Yes, and social media is very much, it's geared towards, obviously, people are trying to present, again, like if you had to boil down the issues with it, they are hyper curating their life to present you with a dreamlike version of it.
Because people don't want to put their embarrassing shit online because it's embarrassing. You don't want to get online and go, holy crap, I've been shitting through a needle hole today. Yeah. When will this stop? Because it's embarrassing, and frankly, nobody really wants to imagine you shitting through a needle hole.
That's right. And also, but then the other thing is, I think no one, just as damagingly in the long run, no one goes on Facebook to say, do you know what, today was a totally average day, but nothing exciting whatsoever happened.
But also nothing fucking shit happened. So actually, let's chalk it up to not that bad. It was entirely average on every type of scale you can have.
But you get this, like, I remember from, like, I haven't been on Facebook for quite some time, like I deleted my account, all that kind of stuff.
I have another thing to say, but say that first.
I was just going to say, like, I remember so clearly my sense that what I would tend to see on Facebook was either someone's worst day or best day over and over and over and over again. Like, people will, I'm in hospital, look at the picture of my foot that was in a car accident, check that out, ha ha ha, isn't that weird and amazing? And then, or, some in loving memory of blah, 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 some person died. So it's like something catastrophically bad, or... as you say, like, look at me in Ibiza, and this is
oh my God, we went on a holiday to Fiji and he proposed and I had no idea what was going to happen. Everybody realised it's going to happen because you haven't been out of the country in 3 years, for God's sake. What I was going to say is, that's a lot of what you say. But I was going to say that one of the things that came up when I was discussing it in a private group was that people can feel like really judged for spending a lot of their time on social media because there is the kind of anti-Facebook, anti-social media, anti-Instagram, you know, because they're collecting all of our data. I think we all fucking knew that, people. And how that to them is actually seen as a really ableist point of view because it just assumes that you have enough of a life outside of your own living room or your own bedroom to be able to get rid of that shit and go, oh, I don't fucking need it. Post a big flaunty, I'm leaving Facebook, haha, because you're all suckers, we're giving them all your data, and then flaunt off, you know, and trot off into the sunset.
That was me, incidentally. I'd just like to get that out there.
It was him, and, you know, I may have been nudging him a little bit there. But there are people like me and like other people with a chronic illness who just can't do that because that can be our lifeline. Yep.
Absolutely.
So don't judge.
No.
But also social media can be awesome. It can be shit. I gotta let people help me. Damn.
Just, I guess, to close up, like, what would you... Is this something that you think the average person ought to have a look at? Have a go at?
Yeah, I think it can be really hard to... The motivation of me doing it every day, to be honest, was because I knew I had to come back and report on it. Otherwise, I was a bit like, whatevs. If you can have motivation to do it every day, yes. I don't know if you're going to... I think there is one of those questions that's going to struggle with you, yes.
So what I'm going to do, Dom...
Yes.
About a fortnight ago, as part of the university subject that I'm doing at the moment, I encountered...
Because he's intelligent, people.
I encountered an alcohol treatment that I had never really heard of before.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do
Which is odd, given that you work in recovery.
Yeah. So what
rehabilitation and whatnot. Rehab.
So this either suggests something very strange about the treatment or very bad about my professionalism. But what I think I would like to do is I'm going to describe the treatment to you. I want to get your opinion, assuming that you haven't heard of this before.
My everyday person who has never been, worked in the area or done enough research in it to have a proper opinion, informed opinion. Give it to me. I love those kind of opinions. They're my favourite.
I think you're going to have an opinion anyway. And then what I want to try and do is, assuming you have the reaction that I'm kind of anticipating.
I always have an opinion.
Okay. And then I'm going to try and make a positive case for it and a negative case for it, and I want your reaction to that as well. So, it's offered by, so far as I know, only one hospital in the US. I'm not sure how many other hospitals worldwide offer it. This place is called the Schick-Shadel Hospital. It's in Washington.
It's a terrible name.
It is. It's been offering this treatment, amongst others, since the 1930s, I believe, which makes it approximately as old as Alcoholics Anonymous. They claim to have treated more than 80,000 people in that time.
That's a lot of people out of one place. I know it's over a decent period of time, but it's still a lot of people.
At present, and I know this because I emailed them and asked them how much it would cost. The treatment lasts for 10 days.
That's short.
Assuming you don't have pretty good US insurance, it costs $18,500.
That's pretty cheap.
In US money.
That's pretty cheap. To me, that sounds pretty cheap.
To put that in context, you could, for that money in Australia, you could get almost 3 months in a private rehab. Sure,
but, you know, America are not famed for being cheap.
No, quite.
For health stuff.
10 days,
You're staying there, and I assume that if you're staying there and you're under rehab and you're getting promised all these things that I haven't yet heard what they're promising you, that you get some decent meals. I assume that they're all gluten-free, vegan, plant-based, etc.
You're getting hospital food, and it's interesting that you should talk about food.
And I reckon that you probably... I like that foreshadowing. I reckon you probably get some really nice sort of orange monk costume for it as well, which I am always down for a costume. I've invented an entire thing, haven't I?
To my knowledge, you don't get a costume. Here's what happens.
I really wanted to be Deadpool.
The treatment is various. There are lots of euphemisms for it. It's basically the most commonly used name for it is pharmacological aversion therapy. And here's how it works. You're put into a room in front of a large basin and also... Can
I just stop you and tell you what that to me sounds like they're doing? They're putting you into a room, you may or not be naked, and you're probably wet or damp, whatever. and then they put whatever it is that's your particular pharmacological, there you go, of choice in front of you, and they get out a cattle prod, and as you go, fuck yeah, they go zzz, and get through all that training you've done yourself and how much you like it, because fear is the quickest teacher here, people.
You're actually pretty close. In a weird way, you're pretty close. And again, foreshadowing, it's funny you should mention electric shocks. We're going to get to that later on. So here's what actually happens. You're given an emetic drug, which is a fancy way of saying this is something that's going to make you throw up over and over and over again. You're also given a drug which contracts the pyloric sphincter, I believe it is, which is the thing that goes out of your stomach, because they don't want you to actually absorb any alcohol in the lower intestines.
Oh my goodness.
And then...
that is as uncomfortable as I can imagine anyone ever being.
Then the first thing that happens is you're told to swill... there's your preferred alcoholic beverage, which you nominate.
You're paying to go through this. Sorry, having a moment there.
$18,500 for 10 days. That's right. So day one...
Where is my vegan lentil burger?
Right. You swill your preferred alcoholic beverage around your mouth and spit it out. That's the first thing that you do.
Okay.
Then... by the time the emetic drug has had a chance to have an effect, you're just encouraged to just drink, right, as much as you like.
So they're just trying to create the negative association
and
of
what
feeling
happens, this is
so
exactly
fucking
right.
rat shit
this
with
is
it.
called, and this is called in
aversion
the
therapy,
psychological theory behind it is called classical conditioning. So this is...
we use that in animals.
Yeah. This is,
it's
Pavlov's
the main
dogs.
training thing.
Yeah. This is classic Pavlov. So that's...
Do you have the 4 quadrants? Ooh, I felt like I was just in a cult because I just did a symbol of 4 quadrants. There is not actually a symbol for 4 quadrants within the dog training sphere.
It's not quite as... the classical conditioning model that they're using here is... it's obviously like pairing an aversive stimulus with a stimulus that you think of as being neutral or positive, right? So that's day one. Then you have 5 of those on every second day for the 10 days. In the intervening days... your body must be so sore in that intervening day. They administer sodium pentothal, aka truth drug, to interview you in a supremely relaxed state to try and gauge how
much you still want it.
And they give you a number of tests to kind of get a sense of what's your self-report confidence as to, can I avoid alcohol in the future? What's your self-reported, how aversive do I find alcohol? So...
can I just bring up something? Having not been an alcoholic, but having had some nights where I've drunk fairly heavily...
until you throw up, say?
Well, also until... and I think it's really what happens when you're about 19. Sometimes when you're 16, look, I'll put my hand up. You drink to the point where not only you're throwing up, but you're also probably on the toilet at the same time as throwing up in front of you because you're going out all of ends. So how is that any more adversive than what alcohol can do to you anyway?
This is one of the questions.
I guess they're just really ramming it home.
It's more aversive because
also your mind isn't as altered.
Yeah,
when you're doing that.
Yeah, there's the repeated stimulus is one thing.
Yeah,
a huge confounding variable is the sodium pentothal on alternating days in between. That's really weird.
Also, it depends on your body as to how quickly that gets out of your body.
Yeah, but so here's the thing. In a relatively recent study, so I think it's 2006, somewhere 2006, 2008. The entire treatment cohort are, I think, 82 people, as with almost all of these studies to do with addiction. The vast majority of them are men, the vast majority of Caucasian. There's a massive self-selection bias in terms of who's got either really good insurance or 18 grand to slap down.
Or enough people in their life to tell them they have to do that.
Yeah. Self-report, 12 months later, something like 70 to 80% are still not drinking. Now, they've had booster experiences.
It's not the same as a vaccination, guys.
At 30 days and 90 days.
Jesus.
So what that means is basically, so they've come in for like 2 days. Yeah. So 10 days initially, 1 month later, 2 days, 2 months after that, 2 days.
Yeah.
and something like a 70 to 80% self-report, again, with all the question marks and alarm bells, especially
that brings,
in
yes.
areas of addiction that should bring. So,
because people never lie.
Yeah.
That's one truth.
Yeah, absolutely.
Never.
Absolutely. And in hunting around about this, by the way, there are vaguely analogous programs which use electricity in the case of, say, other drugs, because you can't, like with alcohol, something you're swallowing, something that goes into your digestive system, it's really easy to pair a nausea, aversive experience with that. Not easy to do the same thing with almost any other mind or mood altering substance. Yeah. So electric shocks are actually used in some.
Do you know the reason that I suggested the electric shock at the start is because what you do with dogs, so in Australia, you may not be aware, we have lots of venomous snakes. Yeah. And if you live in the country and you've had a dog that was, not a retriever, pretty much, they often get killed by venomous snakes because they go, well, I'm going to chase that. It's fucking moving. That sounds like fun. And we don't have rattlesnakes or anything, so there's nothing naturally aversive about them. So they don't learn once they get bitten and they die. So what we do with dogs, if we really need to train them to stay away from a snake, is we put snake in cage, dog usually in cage, sometimes on lead, generally in cage because we don't want to associate the negative with the handler. Yeah. And then we put a shock collar on them. Yeah. And when they show interest in, it's a big enough cage for the dog, they can move towards and away. And when they move towards or show interest in the snake, they get a nice big fucking electric shock. Yeah. Yep. That pretty much works like 99% of the time. Yeah. But no aversive ever works 100% of the time. No. That's a reality in all animal training. Yes, so it must be, humans. And we're animals. Yeah. So that must be truth.
Yeah, for sure. So, and
sometimes the desire outweighs in that moment the adverse learnt behaviour.
Yeah.
No matter
absolutely. What. And also, like, this kind of conditioning, as Pavlov could have told you, does wear off. Like, it has a life, which is not necessarily forevs.
No, but I think with the idea with people, if I was getting in the mind of somebody who thought this was a tops idea, I'm not in that mind. But if I was going to get in that mind, I'd go, well, we're rational, educated, able to have abstract thought creatures. Hopefully you get to the point where you've taught them that's bad, you've gotten past the physical addiction, and you've hopefully, in the meantime, been working, when you've gone away, you've been working on the mental addiction side of it as well. And you can go, when stuff comes up that makes you want to go back to that, the rational mind can go, not a great idea. Not just the learnt, it's going to make me feel like shit, and I have an adverse reaction to it because it makes me feel shit, but also the desire that makes you go, it's worth it anyway. Hopefully your rational mind can get over that, or at least delay it long enough for it to go away. Yeah. That's what I'd be thinking if I was thinking these were good ideas.
Yeah, what's your immediate reaction to the ethics of that?
Frighty shit. Because you can't possibly, that can't possibly constitute consent. Because they're not coming into it giving consent in a stable, rational, clear-headed way. And even if they are told everything that's going to happen to them, if they're going to give them electric shocks, I'm pretty sure they're not telling them exactly how much it is and exactly how much that's going to hurt.
Let's go back to let's take purely the emetic therapy.
Yep. I still think most people, if you're unwell enough to be fronting up to that, I don't think you can possibly give informed consent. Yeah. That's what I think.
Can't you...
So ethically, I think it has real issues just on consent, not on, theoretically, could it work? Yes. I can understand the theory behind it totally. Yeah. Because that's how we train animals.
Yeah. It does.
It's what we do to rats every fucking day.
Yeah. There's a proportion of people for whom it definitely works, at least for a limited period of time. Yeah. This is why I'm so... And my immediate reaction to it was, that's fucking bananas. Like, that's outrageous.
I don't even think it's that fucking... It does not surprise me that humans have thought that was a good idea, because that's how we train animals. Yeah. So why would we not treat humans as animals? Because generally that's kind of what we are, especially some people are more animalistic than others. But it cannot be ethical. I cannot see how that is ethical.
Yeah. My instant reaction was...
Unless you're the one taking the money and then bathing yourself in the money. And that, to me, ethics is not as important then.
My instant reaction was, if I
Scrooge
suggested...
McDuck.
that as a mental health care plan in any other area. Like, because if you think about it, like transpose that situation, which is to say, I'm going to make you have awful experiences until you stop reporting that you're having X mental state.
I can imagine that this was done to gay people.
Yeah, still.
Fucking America.
Autistic kids.
Yeah, I was about to say, and to people with mental illness.
Yeah.
That is.
Yeah.
Not like, and I'm not saying that anxiety and stuff and bipolar isn't a serious mental illness. I mean something like autism or brain damage, or even acquired brain damage, that sort of stuff, where it's your brain don't function anymore. Those wires don't really work anymore.
It does apparently happen. Yeah. From that point of view, this was my instant reaction was, if I said I've got a treatment for depression, which is I'm going to make you feel physically ill until you stop telling me.
You're going to just make me more depressed.
Yeah.
What hope do I have of ever getting out of it?
Yeah. My instant reaction was no one would possibly say that's a decent form of treatment, right? Then I started. I was trying, because this is part of I'm trying to learn to think like a psychologist, I'm trying to be more scientific in my life, so I thought, no, I have to force myself to be open-minded here. So what I want to give you now is my best positive case for this. Let's assume for a moment that you can achieve abstinence from alcohol, and I just want to take alcohol, because I'm not convinced by anything to do with the treatments for other drugs at this point anyway. I will buy the fact that you might be able to get someone to stop drinking for a year, maybe for 18 months, at about a 70 to 80% hit rate. Let's assume that's the case. My best positive construction would be gigantic if, but if you can buy a counsellor, a psychotherapist, an addiction specialist a year.
I was going to say, I think
which
your only chances of it actually working are as if the structures around you are really good to start off with, or become really good. You've got a really great workplace environment, you've got a really great family, you've got a really great partner, you've got really great counsellors, psychologists, whatever.
Yeah.
Because all the structures are there to stop you, reverting.
Yeah. Because there are two things, and you, I think, expressed it really, really well earlier. There's the physical dependence, so there's a kind of physical addiction, as it were, although people don't tend to use the word addiction. They talk about physical dependence, which is to say you have a connection to a substance, which means that you will experience withdrawal symptoms when you stop. That's the definition of physical dependence. Then there's the really tricky bit, which is the addiction, and that's a much more amorphous kind of concept, and that is all the shit that's left over. In other words, why is it? What is it about your mental state which makes sometimes incredibly self-destructive, familially destructive, life-destructive behaviour better than whatever's going on in your head? That's the really tricky bit. So the best positive case I can make for it is if you could buy a counsellor a year off, because what I know is incredibly frustrating to people who work in the drug and alcohol counselling field is it is damn near impossible to make progress with someone's mental health while they are still regularly becoming drug affected.
Yeah.
Just like you can't count on people to do the work to get better.
No.
If they're going out of their way to get
Fucked
into
up.
altered states, all the time. So that's my best possible positive case for it. However, then in looking around, I found some really sad things. There was this guy who started a blog just before he went into Schickshadel Hospital, hoping to document his experience with this. 56 days after the treatment started, there's no more updates on his blog, and that was 2 and a bit years ago.
He dropped off the face of the earth. Hopefully he's still alive.
Assuming, hopefully still alive, but I gather for him, the aversive effects lasted, or maybe the aversive effects with alcohol persist, but he found some other substance, which...
Because you didn't sort out the entirety of the reason why.
Yeah, because none of the underlying stuff was actually solved.
Yeah. That's why it works well with animals. It doesn't always work well. I'm a person that believes in positive training, not negative training.
Yeah.
You sometimes have to use negatives or adversives.
Yeah.
But, and with animals it's a lot more complicated. You're talking about prey animals, you're talking about predator animals, different instincts and whatnot. But animals don't have that abstract thought. They can, dogs can get generalised anxiety disorder and they can get depressed, but it's rare and it's, I would argue that horses and stuff can't. Can they exhibit depression-like symptoms in terms of repeated behaviours and stuff, yes, they can. But often when you take them out of the situation, it's not in their head, it's in the situation. So that's why adversives can have they can really work with animals, because fear is the quickest way to train. But you're relying on the fact that they can't sit there and overanalyze, and they don't use that area of their brain that we do.
Yeah, and by the way, like the key finding in the study that I mentioned earlier, and I don't want to mention the author's name because I've been shitting all over it, but the key finding is olfactory reaction to alcohol post-treatment. People have, on average, a 6 beats per minute jump in heart rate after smelling a preferred alcoholic beverage. In other words, they're terrified.
And that's when I said we do it to rats every day. We do it to rats every day. Not just in animal testing, medically and stuff. We're not just testing, whether or not this statin, whatever you call it, works on the heart or whatever. You're also... You have to train and build those experiments so that you're not building fear into them, because fear changes everything about the body and it trains so much quicker than anything else. But conversely, the flip side is certainly with dogs and 100% with horses, and I would argue 100% with cats as well. If you train using positives, it takes 20 times longer, but you proof it much harder. You get a much stronger proof. You don't have to keep coming back to retrain a certain behaviour. Yeah. That's why they use with zoo animals. I don't really believe in zoos, but they use with zoo animals positive reinforcement constantly to get animals like an elephant to lift up its pad. I'm going to go with pad.
Pad sounds good.
Every day, so that they can check. But even if they don't need to check it every day, they do it every day and they reward it heavily every single time they do that behaviour. They never stop giving the reward, because it's important later on down the track for medical checkups and vet things. But if you stop doing adversives, the dog with the snake, you have to do that every 18 months. You don't do it once and you finish, especially if you've got a dog that we bred drive into, like a terrier. A terrier, that drive, we bred into them for hundreds and hundreds of years. That drive is inherent in what that animal is, and that drive jumps over the fear eventually. And we have that sort of drive. It's just, in addicts, it's a different drive.
Yeah,
it will jump over the fear eventually.
Yeah, it's a human drive not to feel shitty all the time, and you'll go
to get out of your head,
crazy lengths.
Yeah, it's always to do with the mental.
Up to and including putting up with elevated heart rate and feelings of nausea when you drink something. Yeah.
And sometimes that can make it better. Because you win more.
Yeah. So my positive case is, I think, I reckon they'd probably be... I haven't asked this question.
Super interesting.
Work. Yeah, fascinating in a very gory kind of way. I haven't directly asked a counsellor this, but I have a suspicion that there are a lot of them who would jump at the chance of, I've got a year. I've got a real shot with a year
to get in there and to change behaviours, to change ways of approaching certain, I feel this, and how you change the approach to how you feel that, and how you change the reaction to it, all that sort of stuff. Yes. But it is not ethical to gain that year. The way they have to gain it, that's not ethical. Yeah. Cannot be ethical.
So here's my negative case just quickly is, as we
do we need to?
Just to ram it home.
Yeah.
I know this is going to sound like special pleading, but people get away with quote-unquote treatments in the addiction area which you would not get away with if it weren't addicts as the patients. You just wouldn't. This is the kind of, addiction medicine is an
maybe
area
these days, not in history I would argue, but this current day and age,
But I mean, sure, exactly. Addiction therapies now are kind of where a lot of mental health therapies seem to me to have been 50, 70, 100 years ago, kind of. In terms of, we can legitimately talk about taking away someone's freedom to choose a treatment. We can legitimately make the treatments aversive and hideous.
We can deliberately change what their body is.
Yeah, we can do all those kind of things. So there's one thing, and again, with all the special pleading stuff that goes with that. The second is, fucking hell, that cost. $1,800 a day. Seriously, guys, even by the standards of American hospitals, that's fucking bananas.
So I've heard of... Californian rehab centres, but rehab centres in the US that are closer to your like $7,000 a day.
Oh yeah.
So that's why I was like, that's pretty good. That sounds good to me for US.
There are Australian rehabs that are $100+ a month.
Yeah.
$100+ thousand a month.
Yeah.
Easy. There's one that I know of on Micronesia, which is run by an Australian company, which again I won't mention, and it's
we don't love being
for one person only, your own psychiatrist, your own nurse, etc., etc.
That's fucking bomb.
But it's
I'm sure it's like $1 million. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, those treatments exist, and that's within addiction circles generally. I'm super concerned about the advertising on that website as well, the Schick-Schadel Hospital website, which is banging home this study, which, by the way, I think does a disservice to addiction science just in general. Banging on about how great that study is, pushing the 80% success rate.
It's funny that they don't use, given the techniques they're using, it's funny they don't use a lot, because there's been a lot of animal studies about, particularly dogs, but a lot of animal studies about aversives and how immediately effective, if not long-lasting, but certainly immediately effective they are. It's funny they don't tap into any of those. They don't have to say they're about dogs on the fucking website. They could go, this study show that this sort of aversive training or therapy or whatever can give you this result. It's funny they don't put that up there.
No. Well, they
don't seem to have an ethical issue with other things, so that, you know, I'm surprised they don't put that up there as well.
Right. And I kind of wonder how much of it is just we've been doing this since the 30s. Like, I'm sure if you went to a hospital in Australia and pitched this out of nowhere, you'd have enormous amounts of trouble getting it off the ground. This is one of those things. It's been happening for 90, almost 90 years.
I think you have to take into account the American experience, because America and the way it looks at the world, the way it looks at humanity, the way it looks at our place within the world, the way it looks at family structures, the way it looks at pretty much everything on a day-to-day cultural level is inherently different than anywhere else in the world, except maybe North Korea, because they're both so internal looking.
Yeah.
They never look externally.
There's a definite possibility. Yeah, there's a definite possibility.
Whether that obviously never happened in Australia, because otherwise it would have happened at some point. Because you can't say that Australia or Ireland or whatever, you know, we've all got a reputation as heavy drinkers and you know, we'll say the word larrikin, but what we mean is cunt.
Yeah.
Drunk cunt is what we really mean. Yeah. Sorry for the word, guys. So, if that was the sort of thing where it could happen in other countries, I think it would have. Yeah, quite possibly. Anyway, that was my... Super interesting, loved it.
Weird excursion into pharmacological aversion therapy. If you see a hospital that advertises PAT, tell them from us that they're assholes. Dom, yes. For your challenge in the next fortnight, I am going to
I'm ready for this, I'm ready.
A Russian torture device upon you.
It's always torture.
It is, it's always torture with us. It's called an applicator. It looks somewhat
sounds like something one should definitely do in the privacy of their own home.
Indeed, applicating, yeah. So it's called an applicator. It's sometimes also known as an acupressure mat.
Oh, lying on a bed of nails.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Except they're not,
nails,
plastic, and it's connected to a piece of cotton or something, whatever. Anyway, this is something that was allegedly invented in Russia, which made me interested in it just to start with.
He has Russian heritage, in case we've never touched on that on every episode. Yep.
It's the guy who invented it believes that it's a panacea. It cures everything as far as he's concerned.
Cancer definitely cures cancer.
No, more like renal diseases, weirdly enough.
Yeah.
Anyway, but the central claims behind it are that it's good for circulation, but what isn't? But also, it's got the potential to
what isn't good for circulation? A rubberized, noduled paddle.
Slappy paddle, yeah.
Slapper.
But yeah, there are claims that it's decent for nerve pain.
Okay. Well, I have that.
At least I know. That's why I'm suggesting it. But I've personally used it simply because, in my experience, I found it actually weirdly relaxing.
That's not at all surprising.
So Yeah, we shall see how you go with that. And what am I in for?
Well, so I have a fish tank. This is, I'm starting off abstract,
It's a
and
good
I'm going to get to your challenge in a second.
I mean, that fish tank is a lobster. Don't ask questions. Don't look at me like that.
Lobster ate a yabby, and the yabby ate a... No. So what you use to filter it is something called activated charcoal. And activated charcoal has, because I bought it online before, buying it to put in my filter, it now keeps coming up with suggestions of, you've liked activated charcoal, here, have this activated charcoal loaf of bread, or have this activated charcoal pasta, or whatever.
Yeah.
So activated charcoal
bread.
seems
like
to be
pasta.
big in the food thing as a way of like giving your body a toxic cleanse.
It's going to filter me, and the fish that live
Yeah,
in me
pretty
will
much.
be
It's going
so
to take out
happy.
all the fish poo in your body. So I would like you, and you know, if you want to involve your family, go ahead in your food charcoal goodness.
I think they feel very happy being uninvolved in a lot of aspects of this podcast.
Especially given the activated charcoal, it's going to make your food black, and that's going to be a hard sell to any 18-month-old boy. He's 18 months old now.
He's a little over 2, yeah, but
Oh,
same thing.
God,
I know, time just...
Jesus
flies.
Christ, they just
It's
keep growing.
They do.
I mean, God willing, but God.
It's revolting.
Anyway, so
You'd be
it's a
okay
hard
if you
sell
tried.
for a child. Black food was my point.
Yeah. No,
But do try, because that would amuse me greatly.
He'll eat anything that's got tomato sauce on it, is what we've discovered at the moment.
That's pretty excellent.
Yeah.
I was one of those children.
It's
I
excellent.
still have a fondness for
It's excellent, just as long as you don't
peas and
read
tomato sauce. Yeah, no, don't do that.
Don't read the ingredients.
No.
Well, you don't really need to read much past sugar, water.
Sugar, tomatoes last on the list. Salt, sugar, salt.
Well, it's
Sugar.
all tomato, and the ones that claim to be sugar reduced are just the ones or no added sugar, which basically just means it's made out of tomato paste. But I've got news for everyone out there: tomatoes themselves are basically
Sugar water.
red sugar.
Sugar, acidic water. Yeah. Anyway, our little diversion. Basically, you have to eat black food and tell me
That's great,
if it
no.
cleanses you internally, emotionally, externally, etc., etc.
That sounds like a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to
It
that.
seems to be
I
highly
had a
fashionable.
water bottle at one point that had a charcoal filter in it.
Oh,
Does that
I have one of
count?
those.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a filtered water bottle that has a little charcoal filter.
I
Quite
found
pretty,
it very
actually.
nice until the charcoal started to fall to pieces and my water
I
became...
think you meant to take that out before
Black.
that happens.
Wow.
Gotta be honest.
I didn't get onto that nearly soon enough.
Whoops. Other than that, I think that does us for the week.
I think it pretty much does. Thanks so much for listening. It's been fabulous being around you.
It's been alright, and just while we're on the downward slope, I will give you a nice big slap with our rubber thing to, end it.
Thank you, dear listener, for listening. A few words in these litigious times before I tell you how you can get in touch. Anything short of a coffee enema is not intended to be and should not be used as a substitute for advice from medical and psychological professionals. If you want to get in touch with us, and we would love to hear from you, you can email us at anythingshortpod@gmail.com. We gratefully accept suggestions for future challenges and books and other products to review. Or you can heap upon us criticism and abuse. If you wish to heap abuse but find yourself short on time, we recommend Twitter and Instagram, where we go by @shortofapod. If you like what you've heard, on the other hand, leave us a rating and a review on iTunes. Tweet about us, or, like the common cold or herpes simplex, spread us by using your mouth.